Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast with Michelle Chalfant, a place to delve into who we are, how we got that way, and explore what it takes to be a healthy grown-up. With an extensive toolbox and guests with varied expertise, Michelle will lead us on a journey to learn what it's like to live authentically and to love ourselves just the way we are. And now, here's Michelle.
Hello, everybody. It is Michelle Chalfant, and I am, of course, so happy to be with you here today, talking about the inner critic. Ooh, it's such a good topic. We all have that inner critic, and as you know, it exists right in the middle of that adolescent chair. And I'm going to talk with you today about what do we do about the inner critic? First of all, what is it? And then what do we do about it? And how do we quiet that inner critic? Because it really can take a hold on us and, make us sometimes spin down and get really sad and in some dark places if we listen. But I believe we can transform that inner critic. I had a very loud inner critic for many, many, many years. And it's not to say that it's 100% gone, but it has transformed, no doubt about it. So I'm going to be chatting with you about that and how you too can transform your own inner critic. But I do want to share with you again, and I know I shared this with you last week, and we had huge back-end coding technical issues with the workshop. The workshop is up and live, and it is going to be May 4th and 5th here in Nashville, Tennessee, the Adult Chair Workshop. So for more information, go to theadultchair.com/workshop. And this is for anybody that is really wanting to learn more about this whole model. You can participate as much as you'd like. I get some of these questions. People think they have to get up in front of the room and do their own work, and you never, ever, ever have to do that. However, if you'd like to, you can. So this class is limited to 50 people, and I will say Charlotte sold out very, very quickly, and we had a giant waiting list. So if you're interested in coming and experiencing this model for yourself for the weekend, I would register quickly because, again, it is going to sell out with a waiting list like last time if I had to make a wild guess. And for the rest of the month of March, I am offering $100 off that workshop. So in this workshop, we do a lot. Well, first of all, I take you through each chair. You do a lot of your own work. We divide up in pairs and do some work. There's some lecture. There's meditations. It's really fun. There's a lot of chair work for the people that do want to get up and do chairs. And then you really get to see and experience how these chairs work live and in person. You can ask questions. So it's really a jam-packed weekend, and we have a lot of fun, and we all do a lot of work. And the response is always so great at the end. People really love it. And I'm, of course, you know me, trying to make it better all the time. So I rewrite parts of it to make it stronger and better to give people the experience that they are looking for. And anyway, we'd love to have you join us. So go to theadultchair.com/workshop. And it's just a great way to take that deep dive into the adult chair model. We also have the new membership group. So each month we do a monthly theme. We've done the child chair, we've done the adolescent, and next month, of course, we're going to do the adult. And then we go into codependency and boundaries and love addiction and love avoidance. And I've got some really great topics that I've touched on, even in this podcast, that we then spend a whole month on. And I'm having really a lot of fun. I'm going in there every week doing videos and answering questions and getting in some great conversations on that Facebook group that's attached to the membership group. But you also get an exclusive podcast and meditation and affirmations and journaling prompts. Everything is geared to take you deeper into each monthly theme. So come check that out at theadultchair.com/membership, and you can learn all about that. All right, here we go. Moving on to the inner critic. Boy, there is so much to this inner critic, but I will say this. As you can probably guess, like I said earlier, it is seated firmly right in the middle of that adolescent chair because the inner critic is attached to our ego. So what I want to say about the inner critic is that, first of all, let's just I want to back up a little bit. The ego exists to keep us safe and alive. And the inner critic is one of the strongest voices, I feel like, that comes from that egoic part of us. It's a persona. It's a part of us. I want you all to remember that. It's not all of who we are. And when that voice gets really loud, it feels like it's who we are, and it's not. It's a part of us that exists in the adolescent chair that's really, 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 really loud. And when a part is really loud, remember, what do I always advise that we do when we have a loud part? Think about it. What do I say? We want to turn toward it. We want to get to know it. In order to transform the parts of ourselves like this one, we have to get to know it. And so many of us, when we have that voice that says, I'm stupid, what do you think? Why would you even bother inviting so-and-so out? They're not going to like you. You're such a jerk, or you're this, or you're that. Whatever that part is saying to you, we try to numb it out. We turn away from it. We distract ourselves. We watch TV. We do all of these things to distract ourselves so we don't hear that voice. But the moment we get quiet again, or the moment we want to do the very thing that we had set out to do that brought that inner critic up, it's going to come out again. So we have to learn how to transform that part of us. Okay. Number one, I've got some ideas for you, and this is what has worked very well for me, and this is what I share with my clients. So the first thing we want to do, when I say turn toward it again, we want to get to know this part. So one thing that I think is so powerful, and I know that not everybody is visual, and that is absolutely fine, but we can do other things with this, with the inner critic part. But the first thing that I would say is to get a visual of what your inner critic looks like. If you don't know what it looks like, then go ahead and make it up. And something that I do with a lot of my clients, I'll say, draw it out. Like, that's part of their homework. I'm like, draw out what your inner critic looks like. And unanimously, people are shocked, and they'll say, oh my gosh, I had no idea. My inner critic is my 3-year-old self, but it's really angry. My inner critic is 15 and he is raging. My inner critic is a yellow blob. So whatever it is, at least it's very interesting when we put that part of ourselves almost outside of us, and we do that by getting a visual. So then we realize, okay, it's a part of me. It's not all of me. It's a part of me. So close your eyes, get a visual of it, get a sense of it. Get a sense of what it might look like. And again, if nothing comes up for you, just draw something or imagine something. And it doesn't mean, by the way, that if you're female, your inner critic wouldn't be a male. I have many, many male, very strong male voices inside of me that come out when I'm working with different parts of myself. So just be open to what it is that shows up in front of you. And I always say this, go with the first thought that comes to you. Don't spend 15 minutes thinking about what this part may or may not look like. Just close your eyes, drop inside and say, okay, when you're listening to that inner critic that's beating up on you, say, what does this part even look like? Oh my gosh, it's my mother. Oh my gosh, it's my teacher from 5th grade. It's my coach. It's a purple lion. Like, go with it. And you can't get it wrong. People will say, well, I think I got it wrong because it's actually an animal. Great. It doesn't matter. Or it's not an animal, or it's not a human. It's a green square. Fantastic. Your experience is your experience. Go with it. You're not getting it wrong. So that's the first part. Get a visual of this. Then we know who's saying what to us. It's almost like seeing it outside of us. So that is a great first step. Okay. Again, this is all about turning toward. We want to turn toward that part. Stop running from it. We have to think about it. It's a scared part of us trying to keep us safe. It's a younger part of us trying to keep us safe. Remember, with the adult chair model, the inner child collects all the experiences from age 0 to 6, and it's all recorded, and it's sort of like it hands it off to this egoic part in the adolescent chair around the age of 6 or 7, and then the egoic part of us says, okay, Now I know what to do to keep us safe. It comes up with all these ideas based on all of these recordings from 0 to 6. And it doesn't mean we don't keep adding to that, but from 0 to 6, there's all this stuff that happens. Remember the examples I've used? One of them was something like, for example, maybe if your mom didn't come and get you from the crib when you were crying, and it took just a little bit too long. And then you had the experience of, gosh, maybe I don't matter. So that's recorded and then handed off. Okay. So let's just use that as an example. If I have that recorded within me that I don't matter, and then I hand it off to this egoic part, my inner critic may come in at a later date and try to keep me really small because I don't matter, or maybe make me even big and tell me that I have to be big and be louder, but then I'm too much for people. Like, it's very twisted how it all works, but we don't know where that inner critic voice comes from, or we don't need to know the source. We just know that we have that voice, and it comes from something that's probably built on a belief from a long, long, long time ago, and it doesn't make sense now. Okay? So when we get this visual or this idea or the sense of this voice, even if you absolutely cannot get a visual, it's okay. What I would recommend that you do, whether you can have a visual or not, is start listening very closely to what this part is saying, this inner critic. Ask it also. You can ask it questions, whether you can see it or not, and you ask it things like, what would you like me to know? And then it might start listing things. I'm dumb. I don't matter. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I would advise that you start writing these statements down that are coming from this inner critic and make a list. Here's the thing. The inner critic is trying to get your attention because it's scared you're going to make a mistake and make a fool of yourself, or make yourself look dumb, or make yourself look too vulnerable, or make yourself look fill in the blank. But if you boil down to what the reason is, what the core is, it's to keep you alive. Let me give you an example. If I make myself look stupid, then that means that I'm not lovable. If I'm not lovable, then that means I will have no one in my life. If I have no one in my life, then I'm going to live all alone. If I'm going to live all alone, then that means that I'm going to have to move away, and I'm going to be so sad, I'll probably get depressed. If I get depressed, you see where I'm going with this? It's just like we chunk it down. It's like we just keep building story on top of story on top of story on top of story. And when we boil down to the very, very, very root cause, what we find is, and if this happens, then I might as well die. So at the core of all of these statements from this inner critic is death. Again, the ego is trying to keep us alive. So even if it's something as mild as, I'm trying to keep you small, if we go, well, because if I keep you small, then and we keep going down, it's underneath it all is, or else you're going to die. So that's the root. So, but we're only hearing something as minimal as, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm not a lovable person. So when you start writing these things down, these statements, what you can do is, after you write them down, like, I am dumb, I am not lovable, then you start flipping it and separating yourself from it a little bit. You are dumb. You are not lovable. So take it from an I perspective to a you perspective. So write some of these statements down and flip them to you. And that pushes them away from us a little bit. It creates some space. So after you've got this space, and you're done bringing these statements really into your reality, then we can work with them. You can look at your list and start asking yourself, okay, is it true, 100% true, that I'm dumb 100% of the time? What's the answer? No. Like, who is dumb 100% of the time? Find one time in your life when you were not dumb. And it blows that whole theory up. So we want to start looking at these statements then after we've got them down and challenging them and saying, okay, from our adult, we say, what's truth? What's 100% true? This starts to loosen a lot of these beliefs. it would look like this. I'm a fraud. You are a fraud. And then is it 100% true that I'm a fraud always, 100% of my time in my life? 100% of the time. When you add that 100% of the time, it's hard to hold on to that thought form. So when we're in our adult, we can sit and say, gosh, no, like that's not true 100% of the time. Oh, okay. So what we're doing is we're moving into our adult when we start asking that question. You know what? I don't think this is true for me 100% of the time. Only the adult would say this. We need our adult to start listening and witnessing what's going on with this inner critic. And the adult is the part of us that's going to put it in the you form from the I form and start asking that question. What's true 100% of the time? There's some ways that we can bring our adult in when we're in the middle of this inner critic. Okay. Remember when we're in the adolescent chair, our energy moves fast, which means our thoughts are moving very, very quickly. Our breath is moving quickly if we're breathing at all, or we're taking short breaths. So what we want to do is slow down. We want to slow everything down. Slowing down puts us in our adult. It's counterintuitive because we think, oh my gosh, the thoughts are moving so fast. I got to keep up with them. We want to break that state. So the way that we break the state of the inner critic is to slow down. You can put your hand on your heart, both hands on your heart. You can put one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart and just breathe slowly. Follow your breath. This helps us to change our state. You can stand up and move. Sometimes I'll have my clients stand up in my office and jump up and down. I'm like, okay, what's true? And then we start laughing. It's hard because I'll do it with them, of course. I stand in front of them and we jump up and down together when they're in a downward spiral of that inner critic with the ruminating thoughts. And I'll say, okay, I'm so stupid. Okay, so let's stand up and jump up and down. And then I'll do it with them. And I'll say, okay, so you're stupid. And they'll say, yes, I'm stupid. And then, of course, we start laughing and it changes our state. That changes everything because our energy is changing. And then we can go into again, like, so what is true? After we change our state, if we're really stuck, you do want to get up, move, go outside, jump up and down, do jumping jacks, do something to change your state. And then you can go into again, like what's true. That again brings in the adult energy. Okay. Another thing that we can do in order to bring in more of that adult chair energy is to, again, like I said before, ask that part of you what it wants you to know. Like, what do you want me to know? This inner critic is no different than a little kid that's pulling on your pant leg when they're 3 or 4 years old saying, I have to go potty. Like, I got to go potty. I got to go potty. I got to go potty. Even though it's saying, you're stupid, you're a fraud, you don't matter. It's trying to get your attention. So again, turn toward it and say, okay, I hear you. The adult would say this, I hear you. Thank you. You have my attention. What would you like me to know? What would you like me to know? And listen, then get quiet. From our adult, we can wait and get quiet for a moment. Another thing that we can do from our adult is to do some grounding. Sit down, put your feet on the ground, open up the bottom of your feet and just focus on your feet. What we're doing is we're shifting where the mind is. So the mind is focusing in the brain with all of the ruminating thoughts and the critical thinking. What if you were to focus on your feet for a moment, open up your feet and let the energy come up through your feet? That helps you to ground. Again, changes your energy, puts you back in your adult chair. When my inner critic starts going off and starts going faster with the thoughts and yelling at me and telling me how dumb I am or stupid I am or what a fraud I am, I will stop myself wherever I am and I talk out loud. I'll say, stop, hold on, wait a minute. What we want to remember is the inner critic is sitting in the adolescent chair, which is unconscious. So these thoughts are happening and peppering us like one after the next, but we're unconscious to them. So consciousness sits in the adult chair. So what we want to do is say, hold on. Boom, we woke up out of that dream. We bring ourselves back into consciousness. Say, stop, get the visual of this inner critic. Okay, what do you want me to know? Again, but saying stop it and hold on brings us into consciousness. That's another way to bring in that adult. Okay. So that's it for the inner critic. So I have some homework, though, to help you to continue with the transformation of your inner critic. So these are some things that to do on a daily basis, or one of them is not on a daily basis, but the other ones are. Number one, again, having a sense of gratitude on a daily basis begins to change the brain. If we have a very, very, very active inner critic, which I used to have a very active inner critic, I beat up on myself all the time. It was very, very harsh and loud. Mine has changed, completely transformed. Again, not to say that I never hear it anymore. It's not nearly as frequent as I used to live with. So I know we can change this. Having gratitude and looking around every day. I don't care. Like I'll sit and let's say on the couch and my dog is sitting next to me and I'll just look down at her and I'll put my hand on her and I'll go, gosh, I'm so grateful for this little dog right here. She is so loving and I feel it in the body. So I'm anchoring it in the body. I'll look at my other dog and do the same thing. I'll look outside on a sunny day. Thank you for the sun. I'm so grateful for that sun. A friend will invite me out for breakfast. That just happened actually a couple hours ago. And I'm like, oh, she's so sweet. I'm so grateful for her. And I sit in it for a matter of seconds. I'm looking for what's good in my environment. It doesn't take but seconds. Every single person on the planet can do this. You don't need an hour. You don't need 4 hours. You don't even need 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Seconds. So throughout the day, start looking for what's good and feel it in the body for seconds. That will change your brain to start looking for what's good naturally. Okay? Number 2, self-compassion. Self-compassion is, again, I think of self-compassion like, oh, you know what? It starts with looking at self-validation like, wow, what I just did, I just completed this task. Like, I'm really good at my job. Or I just, so-and-so just thanked me. I'm really good at this. I'm a really loving person. I'm a really loving mom because I think I've used this example in the past because I made my son's lunch because I get up in the morning and sit with my son for 5 minutes before he leaves for school. And I make him a smoothie every day. I'm a really good mom. I'm a really loving person. These little tiny little moments throughout the day. It's again, looking for what's good and how I'm good. This is not about being selfish. People say this all the time. That's selfish. How is that selfish? That is not selfish. That is not selfish at all. Selfish would be, I'm going to sleep in for 3 hours in the morning and not take care of my kid or not get out of bed because I need my sleep and I don't care about anybody else. That's selfish. Self-loving and self-acknowledgement of when I'm doing something well is very different. It teaches us how to have a kind, self-compassionate voice for ourselves. And if you want to transform your inner critic, you have to be or have self-compassion and learn how to speak kindly to yourself. So people challenge me on this with my clients. They're like, well, I don't want to be selfish. It's not selfish, people. It's not. It's not. Who says you can't be loving toward yourself? It's ridiculous that we can sit around all day long and beat up on ourselves, and that's okay. But when I suggest, hey, how about letting yourself know that you did a really good job? People go, oh no, stop it. Yes, you can. There's nothing wrong with it. This is about self-love and self-compassion. So start looking throughout the day at moments. Again, I'm not saying do it for an hour. Moments, seconds of point out things that you do well throughout the day. Wow, got up with my kid. Wow, I did a good thing at work today. Wow, I just dropped my kids off at school. I got them there safely. I'm a good driver. Little things that we miss every single moment of the day. I'm not saying to get every single one, but throughout the day, start noticing the good that you do. That helps build self-compassion. So when you have this inner critic voice that comes in, it's easier then to say, whoa, 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 wait a minute. So you stop, hold on a minute. That's the adult again. What do I know that's true? Then you have a buildup of when you've done good throughout the day, because you've been saying this to yourself for days and days and days and weeks and weeks and weeks, all the good that you've been doing. So then having self-compassion isn't that hard. It's easy to reach for. It's like right there. It's right there. Another thing is, the third thing for your homework, it's something you can do. Of course, you can do it as much as you'd like. It's nice to, again, have a go-to. So write a letter to yourself, but embody someone that loves you, that believes in you. They can be dead or alive. They can be your best friend. If you don't have anybody, what would someone that really, really, really loves you, or a best friend that totally cares about you, what would they say about you? Have them, through you, write a letter. So you're going to write a letter to yourself from their perspective on the type of person that you really are. That's a go-to when you're stuck in the inner critic. You're going to pull that letter out and go, wait a minute. I forgot for a minute who I was. I'm listening to this inner critic, but this person who I know loves me says this about me. Then you get to choose. We choose from our adult. And again, if we're in that slower energy and we're in a different state, it's much easier to choose what's true. And maybe you're not so bad after all. But this is some homework to do, but we want to get to know that inner critic so well. I hope this is a big takeaway. Stop running from the inner critic. You cannot stop that voice. In fact, it gets louder. As you know, when we turn away, it gets louder and louder and louder and louder. It's like a kid that has to pee and it's hitting you and he's going, mommy, 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 daddy, 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 daddy. It's like, if that little boy has to pee, you got to turn toward them and go, what? I got to pee. Okay, let's go to the bathroom. Get to know these parts. And this inner critic, it's loud, but I promise you, promise, you can transform this part too. I promise. And when you build up the good with gratitude and self-compassion and self-acknowledgement when you do something good, it's much, much easier to then transform and turn toward that inner critic. When it starts acting up and wanting your attention, it's much easier to work with the inner critic when we have this buildup over here of what's good about you. Okay. That is that with the inner critic. I look forward to hearing your comments on this. I'm telling you, and it's fast. You know me. If I'm going to work with anything, I want to see results very, very quickly. And I promise you, what I just gave you works, because this is how I transformed mine. So I look forward to hearing comments about this. Hit me up on my Instagram or Facebook. I love hearing about how you are all also transforming and learning to live more deeply in your own adult chair in the healthiest part of yourself. All right, everybody. That's all I've got for you on the inner critic. And don't forget, go to theadultchair.com/workshop to sign up and join me in Nashville, May 4th and 5th. And that is not Mother's Day weekend. Mother's Day is the following weekend. So come join us. You're going to be there putting on a great event for you all. And again, join me in the membership. If you really want to go deeper, it is theadultchair.com/membership. I look forward to seeing you in there. And for now, that's all I've got for you. I will see you all seated firmly right here next week in the adult chair. Have a great week, everybody.